On July 22nd, 2026, OpenAI shipped a product that answers the phone. That's the whole pitch. Within a day, it had wiped billions off companies that don't build artificial intelligence at all. It's called Presence, and OpenAI has been quietly running it on its own support line, where it closes 3 out of every 4 incoming calls without a human ever picking up. The closing rate isn't really what spooked anyone, though. Look at who OpenAI just picked a fight with. For 20 years, enterprise software sold you a seat, a login, a monthly fee, one per human who needed to sign in. Salesforce, ServiceNow, Zendesk, and a few hundred others built empires on that one line of arithmetic. Presence goes at the arithmetic. An agent that reads the policy, verifies the caller, opens the account, issues the refund, and only escalates when it hits something genuinely hard, doesn't need a seat, because there's nobody to seat. You would be paying pure task. Wall Street already had a name waiting. They call it the SaaS apocalypse. $2 trillion of software value has burned away since the October 2025 peak, and JP Morgan called it the worst non-recessionary software drawdown in over 30 years. In one April session, Cloudflare dropped 12%, Snowflake 9%, Service now 7%, Salesforce 4%. Then Presence landed and software bled again. This stopped being a stock story months ago. Atlassian reported the first drop in enterprise seat counts in its history. Workday, a company that sells software for managing workforces, cut 8.5% of its own workforce. Monday.com swapped 100 sales development reps for agents and said so publicly. Then came the number that actually rattled analysts. For the first time on record, software forward price-to-earnings multiples slipped below the broad markets. Investors stopped paying a premium for recurring revenue, and you can see why, because recurring revenue tied to human headcount lasts exactly as long as the headcount does. Which leaves the question nobody has a clean answer for. If the agent can do the job, what are you subscribing to? Presence didn't come out of nowhere either. Back in May, OpenAI launched something almost nobody outside enterprise tech bothered to read about. The OpenAI deployment company, $4 billion behind it, TPG leading, with Bain, Capgemini, and McKinsey at the table. In the same breath, it bought a British consultancy called Tomorrow and absorbed roughly 150 forward-deployed engineers. Sit with that job title for a second. Palantir invented it back in 2005, and it doesn't mean salespeople. These are people who move into your building, learn your workflow, and write production code inside your walls. OpenAI copied that playbook almost line for line. Then, in July, GPT 5.6 arrived in 3 tiers, Sol, Terra, and Luna, with Sam Altman telling CNBC that Sol burns 54% fewer tokens on coding work. So you get cheaper reasoning at the bottom, engineers embedded in the middle, and a finished product sitting on top of both. Nobody ships a stack like that to sell you API credits. The mechanics are worth walking through because they're most of the story. Every deployment starts with one narrow job: resolve a billing dispute, or move an insurance claim forward, or close an employee IT ticket. The agent gets only the knowledge and system access that one job needs. The company writes the rules for what it may do, when it has to ask, and when a person takes the wheel. Before it touches a customer, teams run it through simulations, and graders check whether it followed policy or quietly improvised. After launch, Codex reads the escalations, proposes fixes, and a human approves the rollout. On OpenAI's own line, that loop cut human handoffs by 15 percentage points in 10 days. BBVA is testing it on everyday banking in Mexico. SoftBank on natural Japanese conversation. I AG on insurance claims during severe weather when the calls all arrive at once and every one of them is somebody's worst week. And you can't just go and buy it. Availability is limited, and OpenAI's own engineers do the install. So, picture the room this walks into. Roughly 17 million people work in call centers worldwide. Forrester projects that 49% of today's customer service jobs are gone to artificial intelligence by 2030, with high-volume consumer support hitting 80% automation inside 5 years. Gartner estimates conversational AI strips $80 billion of labor cost out of contact centers during 2026 alone. Now, set that against the other figure buried in the same research. Only about 1 interaction in 10 is automated right now. Both numbers are true at once, which is the whole problem, because the budgets are being cut on the first number while the work is still sitting at the second. And the person who feels that gap isn't the engineer building the agent. It's the 23-year-old in a headset in Manila or Bengaluru or Omaha who was told this thing only takes the easy calls. Most of the coverage skips the failure rate, which is strange because it's enormous. Gartner expects more than 40% of agentic AI projects to be scrapped by 2027, not because the models fail, but because companies can't operationalize them. Gartner's Shiva Varma warned in May that 40% of enterprises will demote or switch off autonomous agents once governance gaps surface in production, which in practice means after something has already gone wrong in front of a customer. MIT found 95% of generative AI pilots produced no measurable impact on profit or loss. Forrester and Anaconda found 88% of agent pilots never graduate to production at all. Klarna is the case everyone points to. It automated hard, watched satisfaction slide, and then hired people back. Its chief executive admitted the company had gone too far and chased cost at the expense of quality. They kept the agent, and they went right on using it. But the certainty about how far to push it never came back. Then there's OpenAI's own balance sheet, which is stranger than anything it ships. Revenue hit roughly $25 billion, annualized by the middle of 2026, about $2 billion a month, with around 70% of it still coming from consumer ChatGPT subscriptions. Against that, a projected $14 billion loss this year, gross margins down from 40% to 33%, and roughly $1.4 trillion in signed infrastructure commitments. The company filed a confidential S-1 with the Securities and Exchange Commission on the 8th of June. The dependency cuts both ways too. Back in January, Microsoft dropped 12% in a day, $440 billion gone after disclosing that 45% of its cloud backlog traced back to a single customer, which tells you what presence is really for. OpenAI needs something enterprises will pay industrial prices for, and it needs it on a schedule that stopped waiting a while ago. So what does this change for you? If you've ever spent 40 minutes on hold to fix a charge that took 90 seconds to reverse, the honest answer is that this probably makes that better. And the labor picture is messier than the headlines suggest. Gartner found only 20% of service leaders have genuinely cut headcount because of artificial intelligence, and half of those are expected to rehire by 2027 under new titles. Nearly 80% say they're moving people into new roles instead. If you build software, the maths is colder. The question isn't whether your roadmap includes artificial intelligence, because everyone's does. It's whether your product owns something a general-purpose agent can't recreate, like proprietary data, or regulated trust, or the payment rails, or years of audit history. And keep an eye on Salesforce, which is fighting on both sides of this at once, with Mark Benioff planning to spend around $300 million on a rival's models this year. So here's where it lands. On the 22nd of July, OpenAI didn't announce a smarter chatbot. It announced that it wants the workflow and not just the model humming underneath it, which is why the market flinched. Every company built on OpenAI's models now has to work out whether it's a partner or a preview. Every enterprise signing an agent contract has to work out whether that 40% failure rate has their name on it. And the people who feel this first aren't in boardrooms. They're wearing headsets. The technology works, and the savings are real, but the disruption is arriving faster than the retraining is. And that gap is where the next 2 years get decided. Right now, nobody's closing it, so the phone is ringing, and the only question left is who picks up. Where do you land on this? Drop a comment. If you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and click the next video on your screen for another breakdown on the latest technology. There's a lot more coming.